What's up, guys? Luna Wolf Max S here. I figured I would talk on Ben Askren and what is next for him. My opinion. This is not like nobody really cares about my opinion, but what I think should happen next for Ben Askren. Ben Askren got knocked out in a record time, 5 seconds, by Jorge Masvidal. Jorge clearly didn't like Ben, but I don't think Ben cares about who likes him or who doesn't. I think he just wants to fight and win, basically. Jorge seems to, he hypes himself up by having someone he thinks hates him and then getting mad at them, which is fine. Different fighters get motivated in different ways. But I really don't think Ben cared that Jorge didn't like him. I don't think Ben dislikes Jorge. He's actually had not good things to say about Jorge personally, but he said some things, like he's basically accepted his loss. He has said that now I'm no longer in the top 10 talk. I've been knocked down the totem pole. I watched him recently on Ariel Helwani's podcast, and he was very humble. Ben Askren was very humble. He was he just accepted it. He was like, yeah, I accepted it. I made a mistake. And he doesn't really say, because people ask him, like, do you think you would do it differently? He's like, probably not. I just got caught. And he said he kind of knew it was coming, that he was going to run across the ring. But I think he thought he could weather through that knee and take Jorge down and dominate him and whatnot. But, okay, that aside, the future for Ben Askren. Ben Askren is still a big draw in the fans' eyes, because he's so one-dimensional and his wrestling is so insane. People want to see. They want to see that. They want to see, can he go up against somebody who's a crazy striker, and can he dominate them? They want to see what, because it's been insane. His last 2 fights in the UFC, the first one he got slammed on his head, somehow survived and submitted Robbie Lawler, even though a lot of people say he didn't get submitted, whatever. It was still an insane fight to watch. It was crazy. And then he fights Jorge Masvidal and gets knocked out in record time. It's an insane fight. So people clearly still want to see him fight, because they know there's such a fear from strikers of Ben Askren, and I've been critical about Ben Askren and other people who are so afraid of the, just got a text message, whatever. There's been ground guys who are so afraid of the stand-up game that they just hit the ground and wait for the other guy to try and come at them. People are so afraid of Ben Askren's ground game that they are not 100% ready to grapple with him. And I get it. He's been so dominant. He's 19-1 now that he's lost to Jorge Masvidal. He's 19-1, and he's been so dominant in those other 19 fights, except for maybe the Robbie Lawler fight. So 18 fights he's been insanely dominant in. People want to see him. They want to see if he can weather a storm, as in a fist fight, and then get the guy to the ground and see what he's going to do. But for me, what Ben Askren needs to face next, I feel like the UFC, if they're going to build Ben Askren's name back up, even though Ben Askren's a huge name, I feel like they're going to throw him to the wolves. They have done nothing but throw Ben Askren to the wolves since he came in. To Robbie Lawler for your first UFC fight. I don't know if, I'm sure people didn't click on this who don't know who Robbie Lawler is. He is a freak of nature. He is an insane person. He can grapple, he can strike, and he just brings this ferocity to the ring that I've not seen in really anybody else that I can recall. Robbie Lawler is just this freak of nature. And for that to be your very first fight, wow, dude. And I guess, like, it happened to Brock Lesnar, where they threw Brock Lesnar to the wolves. In Brock Lesnar's second professional fight and first fight in the UFC, they threw him at Frank Mir. A submission, possibly one of the greatest, to this day, maybe not Fabricio Werdum might, like, rank above Frank Mir, but back then Frank Mir was the greatest submission specialist in the heavyweight division, and they threw Brock Lesnar, because Brock Lesnar had such a big name, they threw him to the wolves and threw him to Frank Mir, and it turned out not good for Brock Lesnar. So I think that's what they've been doing with Ben Askren. They've been throwing in at some beast, trying to build his name, but he's lost, you know. And then he had the controversial win against Robbie Lawler. So his 2 fights in the UFC have both been epic and controversial. But what I think they should do next with Ben Askren is put him up against a guy who is a one-dimensional striker. Basically, somebody you've never really heard of, or you might have seen a couple times in the UFC. Throw him up against somebody that you know, if it goes to the ground, Ben Askren's going to dominate the guy. Kind of, I guess, give Ben Askren another test. Like, here, Ben, fight this guy who you know's not great on the ground, but who has really good striking. I think that's what they should do. I feel like it'd be boring if they threw him at some guy who sucked at striking, like Michael Chiesa. So throw Ben Askren, because Michael Chiesa's fighting at 170 now. Throw Ben Askren at Michael Chiesa, and I don't think that would be a good move, because Michael Chiesa's really gone on the ground. Actually, now that I think about it, that might actually be a good move by the UFC. Michael Chiesa, here's your test. Since you love the ground so much, you're going to fight possibly one of the best guys right now besides Khabib on the ground. You're going to fight Ben Askren. So maybe that would be a good thing. But I feel like they should kind of get Ben Askren's confidence back. They should be like, all right, we're going to throw you up against a striker who's not amazing at striking, but who's also not good at the ground at all, and we're going to build your confidence back up. Even though the UFC doesn't do that. They don't care. They don't hold on to their stars long enough. They will take a guy who becomes a big star, and they will throw them to the wolves just to make that quick buck. They won't build the guy like boxing does. Boxing, the promoters get their fighters really easy fights early on to build their name, and then they start getting the hard fights. The UFC, if they get a guy with a big name, they immediately throw that guy to the wolves to try and make money off of him. Whereas in the long term, if you gave him not easy fights, because in MMA and in the UFC, there's really no such thing as easy fights, but maybe give him some stepping stone fights to make sure he's ready to step to that next level. Clearly, in Ben's last 2 fights, he wasn't 100% ready to step to the next level, even though both of his wins have, I'm not going to say they're flukes, as in the other guy didn't do enough to win, but like the Robbie Lawler fight, was Robbie out? Nobody can really agree on that. So Robbie put Ben on his head and pounded his face in, and Ben somehow survived and put Robbie in a choke that a lot of people say can't choke him out. A lot of people say Robbie was out, but maybe he wasn't. Nobody really knows. And then his second fight in the UFC, boom, 5-second knockout. Which a lot of, the crazy thing is people called Conor McGregor's knockout of Jose Aldo a fluke. It's the majority of MMA fans and trolls that say that Conor McGregor's knockout was a fluke of Jose Aldo, even though it was the same scenario. They have footage of Conor McGregor practicing the slip and punch that he knocked out Jose Aldo with, and people have footage of Jorge Masvidal running across the ring and throwing that knee during practice. So they're the same exact scenario, but people say Conor's was a fluke, but Jorge's isn't, which is kind of biased, but because a lot of people don't like Conor McGregor because he's so successful. He's got a lot of money, and he doesn't really care what you think, and a lot of people hate that. But all that aside, I wouldn't really care to see the Jorge Masvidal Ben Askren rematch. I want to see Jorge kind of move up in competition, get the fights he wants, the money fights he wants, which is great. I love these guys older in their career. They get these money fights. You know, I love that. I really do. Because from a fan's perspective, it's fun to watch. And from the fighter's perspective, they get to make their retirement money, basically. A lot of people hate these money fights. But a lot of people hate Brock Lesnar. They hate Conor McGregor, but the other fighters, even though they act like they hate him, they want to get that fight to get that retirement check, basically. People don't understand why they hate Conor or Brock. I mean, I guess kind of because they have a name outside of the UFC, and they don't see that as fair to the other fighters. But the fighters love it. Deep down inside, they love it because that's a huge money fight, too. a huge retirement paycheck, basically. But anyways, I went over 10 minutes, and I hate doing that because a lot of channels go over 10 minutes to get that double ad revenue, which I don't do. I only put a commercial at the front of the video. If there's a commercial in the middle of my video or the end of my video, I had nothing to do with that. But anyways, I don't know. Let me know what you think. Let me know what should be next for Ben Askren. I really do kind of like the Michael Chiesa fight, even though Michael Chiesa is all he knows is the ground, basically, but Ben Askren does too. But I kind of want to see Ben face another one-dimensional striker so that he can get his confidence back. He can figure out how to deal with the strikes and take the guy down and dominate him. I want to see that. I would like to see that next for Ben. I don't want to see him go up against Michael Chiesa, who just is okay on with his hands, but you know is a boring fighter to watch, as in he's so afraid of the takedown that he will dive to the ground to avoid it. So afraid of the stand-up, he'll dive to the ground to avoid it. But anyways, let me know what y'all think. Appreciate y'all watching. Check me out, SoundCloud, Instagram, Twitter, and like always, check me out on the streets.